Captain Jake Morrison stood on the bridge of the Infinity's edge and watched the stars through the large window. He had been in space for 3 months now, leading humanity's first mission to explore the deep parts of the galaxy. The ship was not the biggest or the fastest, but it was the best Earth could build in the year 2387. "Captain, we're getting a signal," said Lisa Grant from her seat at the navigation controls. She was a smart woman who had studied space travel for most of her life. "It's coming from that big station ahead of us." Jake looked at the massive structure floating in space. It was 10 times bigger than any human building and covered in strange lights that moved in patterns he had never seen before. "Open a channel, Lisa. Let's see who wants to talk." The screen in front of them flickered and then showed a face that was not human. The creature had blue skin that looked like crystal and eyes that glowed with white light. When it spoke, words came through a machine that changed its language into English. "Welcome, small beings," the alien said in a voice that sounded like breaking glass. "I am Ambassador Zethkar of the Vorthak people. We have been watching your little ship for several days now." Jake stepped forward and tried to look confident. "I'm Captain Jake Morrison of Earth. We come in peace and hope to learn about your people and others in this part of space." Zethkar made a sound that the translation machine said was laughter. "Earth. Yes, we have heard stories about your kind, the carbon-based comedians who still use fire to push their ships through space." From behind Jake, Tony Blake looked up from his workstation. He was the ship's engineer and had built most of their equipment himself. "Fire. Our engines use controlled fusion reactions that can—" "Quiet, Tony," Jake said softly. He did not want to start an argument on their first meeting with aliens. "Please come aboard our station," Zethkar said. "The Galactic Trade Council is meeting today. They would enjoy seeing real humans for themselves." 2 hours later, Jake and his team walked through the corridors of the alien station. The walls were made of materials that seemed to glow from inside, and the air tasted strange despite their breathing masks. With Jake were Lisa, Tony, and Kate Sullivan, their science officer who studied alien life forms. The meeting room was huge and filled with creatures that looked nothing like humans. Some floated in the air like balls of light, others looked like giant insects with too many arms, and some seemed to be made of metal and wires instead of flesh and blood. "Look at them," whispered one of the floating lights in a language their translation devices could barely understand. "They still have hair growing from their heads. And they wear cloth coverings," added a metal creature. "How primitive." Jake and his team sat in chairs that were clearly not made for human bodies. Around them, dozens of alien species talked and pointed at the humans like they were animals in a zoo. A large insect creature with 4 arms stood up. "I am Trade Leader Vexhai of the Krex Union. We have heard many stories about your species, humans. Tell us, is it true that you still fight wars with metal bullets?" Kate started to answer, but Jake held up his hand. "We use many different tools, for different purposes." This caused more laughter from the aliens. "Tools," said Zethkar. "They call weapons tools. How wonderfully innocent." "What about your communication?" asked another alien that looked like a walking tree. "Do you still send messages through space using radio waves?" "Among other methods, yes," Lisa said. The entire room burst into sounds that the translation machines called laughter. Some aliens made clicking noises, others hummed, and the floating lights pulsed brighter. "Radio waves," repeated Vexhai. "We stopped using such slow methods thousands of years ago. We speak directly through quantum consciousness now." "And your ships?" added a new voice. This alien looked like a giant fish with legs. "You still use chemical rockets to leave your planet's surface?" Tony's face turned red. "Our rockets are highly advanced systems that—" "Chemical," the fish alien interrupted. "Burning fuel like cave dwellers making fire." For the next hour, the aliens asked questions about human technology, culture, and history. Each answer brought more laughter and comments about how backward and primitive humans were. "You actually use physical money?" asked one alien. "You still eat other living things?" said another. "Your leaders are chosen by counting votes from everyone?" This brought the loudest laughter yet. Jake tried to stay calm, but he could see his team getting angry. Kate's hands were clenched into fists and Tony looked ready to start shouting. Finally, Zethkar stood up. This has been very entertaining, humans. Your species will make excellent comic relief for our boring trade meetings. Comic relief? Jake asked. Yes, Zethkar said with what might have been a smile. Every galactic civilization needs amusement. Your people are perfect for this role. You are harmless but interesting, like small animals that do clever tricks. We are not animals, Kate said, standing up fast. Of course not, Zethkar said in a voice that sounded like he was talking to a child. You are sentient beings, very primitive sentient beings, but sentient nonetheless. Another alien, this one made of what looked like living rock, spoke up. The humans have one interesting quality. They survive situations that should kill them through pure stubbornness and luck. Yes, agreed Vexhai. We have observed this. They refuse to give up even when logic says they should. It is quite amusing. Like the time their ship lost power near a black hole but they used their chemical rockets to escape, said the fish alien. Or when they landed on a planet full of deadly creatures and somehow made friends with them, added another. Jake realized that the aliens had been watching humanity for a long time. They knew about human history and achievements, but they saw everything as entertainment rather than proof of human capability. Well, Zethkar said as the meeting ended, you may stay on our station for a few days if you wish. The other species would enjoy meeting the famous humans they have heard so much about. As Jake and his team left the meeting room, they could hear the aliens still talking about them. Did you see how they walk? So clumsy compared to proper movement. And they communicate by making sounds with their mouths. How inefficient. I heard they actually touch each other as a form of social bonding. Back on their ship, Jake's team sat in the common room without talking for a long time. They think we're jokes, Tony finally said. Stupid jokes, Kate added. Lisa looked out the window at the alien station. Maybe that's not such a bad thing. Jake looked at her. What do you mean? If they think we're harmless idiots, they won't see us as a threat, Lisa said. That might be useful someday. None of them knew how right she was. 6 months after the meeting at the trade station, things in the galaxy started to change. The Mordani Empire, a group of warrior aliens that nobody had heard from in 50 years, began attacking planets near the edge of known space. Commander Rick Carter received the news while his ship, the Endeavor, was delivering supplies to a research station. Rick was younger than Jake Morrison but had more experience with military operations. His crew included Amy Walsh, who planned battle strategies, and Ben Torres, who handled all communications. The Mordani just took 3 systems in 2 weeks, Amy said, reading reports from her computer screen. The galactic forces can't stop them. What makes them so dangerous? Rick asked. They adapt fast, Ben said. Every time the aliens try a new weapon or defense, the Mordani figure out how to beat it within days. Rick looked at the star map showing Mordani attacks. The red marks were spreading like a disease across peaceful systems. What are our orders? Keep doing supply runs and stay out of the way, Amy said. The Galactic Council says humans are too primitive to help with military matters. Of course they do, Rick said with a bitter laugh. 3 weeks later, the Endeavor was approaching Research Station Gamma when Ben picked up strange signals on his equipment. Commander, I'm getting multiple contacts on long-range sensors, Ben said. Looks like a big fight happening near the station. Rick moved to look at Ben's screen. Can you tell who's fighting? The station is calling for help. Says they're under attack by Mordani ships. Amy checked her tactical display. Station Gamma has representatives from 12 different species working there. If the Mordani capture it, they'll learn about all the major galactic technologies. How long until other ships arrive to help? Rick asked. Ben shook his head. Nearest galactic fleet is 6 hours away. The station won't last that long. Rick thought for a moment. The Endeavor was not a warship. It was built to carry supplies and had only basic weapons for protection against pirates. But on the screen, he could see the research station's shields. failing under heavy attack. Ben, send a message to the station, tell them we're coming to help. Sir? Amy looked confused. We're just a supply ship. The Mordani have real warships. I know, Rick said, but we're the only help those people are going to get. When the Endeavor arrived at the battle, Rick saw 6 Mordani ships attacking the research station. The Mordani vessels were black and covered in spikes, looking like space monsters instead of normal ships. They're not even trying to capture the station, Amy said, watching the attack. They're just destroying it slowly. Why would they do that? Ben asked. Maybe they enjoy causing fear, Rick said. Amy, what do we know about Mordani? Fighting methods? Amy pulled up information on her screen. They use coordinated attacks with heavy weapons. Their ships have strong shields and they fight in formation. Very organized and disciplined. Rick nodded. So they expect their enemies to be organized too. What do you mean? Get me a channel to the station, Rick said. A few seconds later, the face of Dr. Kethvor, a tall alien with green skin, appeared on the screen. Behind him, Rick could see smoke and sparks from damaged equipment. Human ship, you must leave immediately, Dr. Kethvor said. The Mordani will destroy you. Doctor, I need you to do exactly what I tell you, Rick said. When I give the signal, shut down all your weapons and shields. That will make us defenseless. Trust me. Also, can your station make a lot of smoke, Doctor? Kethvor looked confused. Smoke? You mean atmospheric contamination? Yes, but why would we? Just be ready to fill the space around your station with as much smoke and debris as possible. Rick closed the channel and turned to his crew. Amy, I need you to make our ship look damaged. Shut down half our systems and vent some of our air supply. Sir, that's dangerous if we really get hit. Ben, send a distress signal saying we're having engine problems and need help. To who? Ben asked. To everyone. Make it loud and panicked. Amy and Ben looked at each other but followed orders. Soon the Endeavor was drifting through space, venting air and sending emergency signals. The Mordani ships noticed the human vessel and moved to investigate. Rick watched them approach in their perfect formation. Now, Dr. Kethvor, Rick said into his communicator. The research station suddenly stopped fighting back. Its shields went down, and its weapons went silent. At the same time, it began releasing clouds of thick smoke and bits of metal debris. What are you doing? Amy whispered. Making them think they won, Rick said. Mordani are warriors. They want glorious victories, not easy kills. The largest Mordani ship moved close to the station, probably planning to board it and capture prisoners. The other ships spread out to surround the area. Now they're not in formation anymore, Rick said. Amy, bring all systems back online. Ben, send a message to that big ship. What should I say? Tell them that humans don't surrender. The Endeavor suddenly came to life, engines roaring and weapons charging. But instead of attacking the big ship near the station, Rick aimed at the smallest Mordani vessel on the edge of the group. Fire everything we have at that ship, Rick ordered. The human weapons were weak compared to Mordani shields, but the surprise attack caught them completely off guard. The small ship's shields failed and it took heavy damage. At the same time, the research station's weapons came back online and began shooting at the big ship while it was close and unprotected. They're confused, Amy reported. The Mordani ships don't know whether to attack us or the station. Good. Ben, ram that damaged ship. Ram it, sir? Full speed. Hit them as hard as we can. The Endeavor accelerated toward the wounded Mordani vessel. At the last second, Rick had everyone hold on tight as the human ship crashed into the alien warship. Both ships were badly damaged, but the Mordani vessel was completely disabled. The other Mordani ships tried to regroup, but they had never faced enemies who used ramming attacks or fake surrenders. Dr. Kethvor's voice came over the communicator. Amazing. The Mordani are retreating. Rick looked at his tactical display. The 5 remaining Mordani ships were indeed pulling back, apparently confused by human fighting methods. Damage report, Rick said. We're hurt, but we can fly, Amy reported. Hull breach in Section 3, but we can fix it. The station? Still there, still functional. 2 hours later, the Galactic fleet arrived to find the research station intact and the humans making repairs to their damaged ship. Admiral Zethvar of the Galactic Forces contacted Rick directly. "Commander Carter, we received reports of your engagement with Mordani forces. This seems impossible." "We got lucky," Rick said. "Lucky? You defeated 6 Mordani warships with a supply vessel. We didn't defeat them. We just made them decide the fight wasn't worth it." Admiral Zethvar was quiet for a long time. "Your methods were very unusual." "Yes, sir. The Galactic Council will want a full report on your tactics." After the call ended, Amy looked at Rick. "Think they'll stop calling us primitives now?" Rick watched the alien ships on his screen. They were keeping their distance, like they were afraid to get too close to the humans. "No," Rick said. "I think they still see us as a joke. They just don't understand the punchline yet." The war with the Mordani Empire was getting worse every day. What started as attacks on small planets had grown into a full invasion of the core worlds, the most important systems in galactic space. Admiral Paul Jackson stood in the war room on Earth, looking at reports that made his stomach hurt. The aliens were losing badly despite having technology that was hundreds of years ahead of anything humans could build. "They took the Centauri system yesterday," said Captain Ryan Foster, one of Paul's best ship commanders. "That's 5 major systems in 2 weeks. "What about the Galactic Fleet?" asked Captain Nicole Barnes. She commanded the newest Earth-ship, the Defender. "Retreating again," said Captain Dan Mitchell. "Every time they try to make a stand, the Mordani break through their lines." Paul studied the battle reports on his screen. The Galactic Forces had weapons that could destroy planets and shields that could stop almost anything, but they kept losing fights against the Mordani. "I don't understand it," Nicole said. "How can the most advanced civilizations in the galaxy be losing to one species?" "Because they don't know how to fight a real war," Paul said quietly. The other captains looked at him strangely. "Think about it," Paul continued. "These aliens have been peaceful for thousands of years. They build better and better technology, but they forgot how to actually use it in combat." "The Mordani haven't forgotten," Ryan said. "No, they haven't. And now the Galactic Council is desperate enough to ask us for help." 2 days later, a message arrived from the core worlds. President Maria Rodriguez called Paul to her office to discuss it. "They want our military assistance," she said, showing him the alien communication. "The Galactic Council is formally requesting that Earth send warships to help defend Proxima Station." Proxima Station? The biggest military base in galactic space. If it falls, the Mordani will control the main supply routes to every major system. Paul thought about this. "How many ships do they want?" "As many as we can send. They're offering to upgrade our weapons and shields with their technology in exchange for our help." "What did you tell them?" President Rodriguez smiled. "I told them we accept. I'm putting you in command of our largest fleet ever assembled. 40 ships including our 3 heavy cruisers." "When do we leave?" "Tomorrow. The situation at Proxima is getting critical." The next day, Paul's fleet left Earth's solar system for the first time in human history. 40 human warships, each one carrying crews who had trained for years but never fought in a real space battle. The journey to Proxima Station took 3 days. When they arrived, Paul saw the largest space battle he could have imagined. Hundreds of alien ships were fighting against twice as many Mordani vessels around a massive station that looked like a small moon. "My God," whispered Ryan over the communication channel. "Look at the size of that battle." "Admiral Jackson, this is Fleet Commander Veltar of the Galactic Defense Force," came a voice over the radio. "We are grateful for your arrival, but I must warn you, we are losing this engagement." Paul looked at his tactical display. The alien commander was right. The galactic ships were being pushed back toward the station by organized Mordani attacks. "Commander Veltar, what's your current strategy?" "We are attempting to maintain defensive positions around the station while our heaviest ships provide covering fire." Paul studied the battle. The galactic ships were fighting like they were trying not to get hurt instead of trying to win. "Nicole, take your squadron and hit those Mordani ships on the left flank," Paul ordered. "Sir, Fleet Commander Veltar says we should stay in defensive formation." "Forget what he says. Dan, Take your ships around the right side. When Nicole attacks, you hit them from the opposite direction. Admiral, the Galactic Commander is requesting that we coordinate with his battle plan, said Ryan. Tell him we're going to try something different. Paul watched as his ships moved into attack positions. The human vessels were smaller and weaker than both the Galactic and Mordani ships, but they moved with purpose. All ships, this is Admiral Jackson. Remember your training. We're not here to preserve our ships, we're here to win this fight. Nicole's squadron attacked first, diving straight at a group of Mordani vessels that were advancing on the station. Instead of trying to fight from long distance like the aliens did, the human ships closed to point-blank range and opened fire with everything they had. Nicole, your shields are failing, Paul said. I know, sir, but so are theirs. 2 of Nicole's ships took heavy damage, but they destroyed 3 Mordani vessels before pulling back. The Mordani formation was disrupted, and Dan's squadron hit them from the side while they were confused. Fleet Commander Veltar, now would be a good time for your ships to advance, Paul said. Advance? But we might take casualties. That's what happens in war. Move forward or we'll lose the station. Slowly, the Galactic ships began to push forward. They were still being careful, but they were finally attacking instead of just defending. The battle continued for 6 hours. Paul's fleet lost 8 ships completely and had 15 more badly damaged, but they had broken the Mordani attack and saved Proxima Station. After the fighting ended, Fleet Commander Veltar contacted Paul directly. Admiral Jackson, I must ask about your tactics. Your ships deliberately put themselves in danger. That's how you win battles, Paul said. Sometimes you have to risk everything. But you lost so many vessels. How do you justify such losses? Paul was quiet for a moment. Commander, how many ships did you lose before we arrived? 37 vessels in the past week. And how many did the Mordani lose? Very few. Perhaps 6 or 7. Today we destroyed 43 Mordani ships. Yes, we lost 8 human vessels, but we actually hurt the enemy. Your way was safer for individual ships, but it was losing the war. Fleet Commander Veltar did not answer for a long time. I think I am beginning to understand. Over the next few days, alien officers visited Paul's ships to learn about human fighting methods. They asked questions about tactics, strategy, and something they had never heard of before called acceptable losses. Captain Nicole Barnes, whose ship had been badly damaged in the battle, was explaining human military thinking to a group of crystal-like aliens. You see, she said, humans have been fighting wars for thousands of years. We learned that sometimes you have to sacrifice something valuable to gain something more valuable. But each ship represents years of construction and hundreds of trained crew members, said one of the aliens. And each battle represents the fate of entire star systems, Nicole replied. Which is more important? The alien officers looked confused by this idea. Later, Paul met with Fleet Commander Veltar privately. Admiral, my government is requesting more human assistance. The Mordani are still advancing in other sectors. What kind of assistance? Military advisors, tactical consultation, perhaps more human ships. Paul nodded. I think that can be arranged. There is something else, Veltar said. Some members of the Galactic Council are concerned about human military capabilities. Concerned how? They wonder if humans might be more dangerous than the Mordani. Paul looked out the window at the wreckage from the battle. Broken ships from 3 different species floated in space, but most of them were Mordani vessels destroyed by human tactics. Commander, Paul said, humans have been dangerous for a very long time. The question is whether we're dangerous to our enemies or our friends. Veltar was quiet for a moment. I hope for the sake of the galaxy that humans consider us friends. So, do I, Paul said. But privately, he wondered if the aliens would still think of humans as friends once they realized just how good humans were at fighting wars. After the victory at Proxima Station, everything changed. The Galactic Council sent formal requests to Earth asking for human military advisors to help train their forces. General Frank Williams and Colonel Sarah Kim were among the first humans, assigned to teach alien commanders how to fight real wars. The training center was built on a neutral planet called Haven Prime. When Frank arrived, he found himself facing 200 alien officers from dozens of different species. They all looked at him with a mixture of curiosity and suspicion. "General Williams," said Commander Zaxel, a tall alien with 4 arms and silver skin. "We are here to learn about human military tactics. But I must ask, why should we trust methods from such a primitive species?" Frank smiled. "Commander, 3 months ago your forces were losing every battle against the Mordani. Today, systems where humans are advising your fleets are pushing the Mordani back. Results speak louder than words." The first lesson was about something Frank called force multiplication. He stood in front of a large screen showing different battle scenarios. "Your ships are more advanced than ours," Frank said, "but you use them like they're fighting alone. Watch this." He showed a recording of a recent battle where human-advised alien forces had defeated a much larger Mordani fleet. "See how the smaller ships work together to support the heavy cruiser? Each ship does what it's best at instead of trying to do everything. An insect-like alien raised one of its 6 arms, but this requires some ships to take greater risks to protect others." "That's correct," Frank said. "Some ships shield others so the protected ships can use their weapons more effectively. The result is that the whole group fights better than the sum of its parts." Colonel Sarah Kim handled the lessons on deception and misdirection. The alien officers found these concepts very difficult to understand. "You want us to lie to the enemy?" asked a crystalline alien whose name Frank could not pronounce. "Not lie," Sarah said. "Mislead. Make them think you're going to do one thing, then do something else." She showed them recordings of human forces making the Mordani believe they were retreating, only to circle around and attack from an unexpected direction. "This seems dishonorable," said another alien. "Fighting should be direct and honest." "Honor won't save your people when the Mordani destroy your home planets," Sarah replied. "Would you rather be honorable and dead, or alive to protect those you care about?" The alien officers were quiet after that. Lieutenant Commander Alex Turner commanded the first joint task force that mixed human and alien ships together. His fleet included vessels from 6 different species, all learning to fight under human tactical doctrine. "Remember," Alex told his mixed crew over the communications channel, "we're not just trying to win battles. We're trying to end this war." The first test came when Alex's task force encountered a Mordani battle group near the planet Kepler 7. The Mordani had 12 ships, while Alex had only 8. In the past, the aliens would have retreated and called for reinforcements. "All ships, this is Commander Turner. We're going to use Formation Delta 7. Formation Delta 7 was a human invention that the aliens had never seen before. Instead of keeping all ships together, it spread them out in a pattern that looked random, but was carefully planned. "Mordani ships are moving to attack," reported Captain Vorthak from his alien cruiser. "They're maintaining standard formation." "Perfect," Alex said. "That means they haven't learned yet. Begin Phase 1. 2 of Alex's ships, including his own, moved forward as if they were going to attack directly. The Mordani ships grouped together to meet this threat, just as Alex had hoped. "Phase 2, Alex ordered. The other 6 ships, which had been hiding behind asteroids and debris, suddenly appeared on the Mordani flanks and rear. The enemy found themselves surrounded and outnumbered in each local fight, even though they had more ships overall. "How is this possible?" transmitted the Mordani commander before his ship was destroyed. The battle was over in 20 minutes. All 12 Mordani ships were destroyed or disabled, while Alex's task force lost only 1 vessel. "Commander Turner," said Captain Vorthak after the battle, "I begin to understand why the Galactic Council fears human methods." "They fear us?" Alex asked. "Of course. Your species thinks about warfare in ways we never imagined. You see patterns and possibilities that we cannot." Back on Haven Prime, General Frank Williams was giving his most important lesson to the senior alien commanders. "The difference between humans and other species," he said, "is that you developed technology to avoid conflict. We developed conflict to improve ourselves." The room was very quiet. "Every human military doctrine comes from thousands of years of warfare," Frank continued. We have studied every type of battle, every kind of enemy, every possible situation. War is not just something we do, it is something we understand. Admiral Kethmore, the highest-ranking alien officer present, raised a tentacle. General Williams, are you saying that humans are naturally warlike? No, Frank said. I'm saying that humans are naturally survivors. We learned to fight because we had to. You learned to build better technology because you could. And now? Now the galaxy faces an enemy that your technology cannot stop alone. But combined with human strategy, your advanced chips and weapons become unstoppable. The training continued for months. Alien officers learned about concepts like strategic reserves, tactical flexibility, and operational security. They practiced maneuvers that required trust, sacrifice, and coordinated timing. But the most important lesson was about thinking like a warrior instead of thinking like a scientist. When you see an enemy formation, Colonel Sarah Kim told her students, don't think about how their technology works. Think about what they're trying to accomplish and how you can stop them. The results were dramatic. Within 6 months, alien forces using human tactics had liberated 15 star systems from Mordani control. The tide of war was turning, but so was something else. Fear was growing in the Galactic Council chambers. The humans have made our forces more effective, said Counselor Zethvar during a secret meeting. But they have also made warfare itself more effective. What do you mean? Asked another counselor. Before humans arrived, wars were limited affairs. Ships fought, some were destroyed. Eventually, one side would retreat. Now our forces pursue enemies to complete destruction. They attack supply lines, command centers, civilian infrastructure. This is more efficient, pointed out a third counselor. Yes, but it is also more terrifying. Humans do not fight to win battles. They fight to win wars completely. The meeting continued in worried tones as the alien leaders began to realize what they had unleashed. Meanwhile, Alex Turner was preparing his task force for their next mission. His fleet now included 20 ships from 8 different species, all trained in human tactics and eager to use them. Sir, said his communications officer, we're receiving reports that the Mordani are beginning to retreat from the outer systems. Good, Alex said. But retreating enemies can be the most dangerous. They have nothing left to lose. He looked at the star map showing Mordani-controlled territory. The red zones were shrinking, but Alex knew the final battles would be the hardest. Prepare the fleet for deep strike operations, he ordered. It's time to end this war. What Alex didn't know was that ending the war with the Mordani would be the easy part. The hard part would be what came next, when the galaxy had to decide what to do with the species that had taught them how to fight. 18 months after humans joined the war against the Mordani Empire, the galaxy was a different place. The Mordani homeworld had surrendered after a campaign that lasted only 3 weeks. Their mighty fleet was destroyed, their colonies liberated, and their empire broken into scattered groups of refugees. Admiral Rebecca Shaw stood on the bridge of Terra Station, the largest human military base ever built. It floated in space near the galactic core, surrounded by more human warships than had ever existed in one place. Through the massive windows, she could see alien vessels keeping a respectful distance from the human fleet. Admiral, said her aide, Lieutenant Commander Mark Torres, the Galactic Council has confirmed the location for the Peace Summit. They want to meet at Neutral Station Alpha. Rebecca nodded. And they specifically requested that humans attend? Yes, ma'am. They want to discuss humanity's new role in galactic affairs. Rebecca smiled, but it was not a happy smile. I bet they do. The truth was that the Mordani had been defeated too easily once humans took control of military operations. What should have been a long, costly war had ended with the complete destruction of an empire that had terrorized the galaxy for 2 years. Now the aliens were scared of their human allies. 3 days later, the Peace Summit began at Neutral Station Alpha. Ambassador John Mitchell led the human delegation, backed by General Patricia Cole and her staff. When they arrived at the meeting chamber, they found representatives from every major galactic species waiting for them. Ambassador Mitchell, said Counselor Zethvar, the same alien who had dismissed humans as comedians 2 years earlier. We are grateful for humanity's assistance in ending the Mordani threat. We were happy to help, John said, sitting down at the large conference table. Yes, well, Zethvar continued, we must now discuss the future structure of galactic civilization. The alien representatives looked nervous. Some would not make eye contact with the humans. Others whispered quietly among themselves. What specifically did you want to discuss? John asked. A new alien, Admiral Vexhai of the Krex Union, spoke up. Ambassador, in the past year, human military advisors have fundamentally changed how we conduct warfare. Your methods are extremely effective. That was the goal, General Patricia Cole said. To win the war, but perhaps too effective, said another alien. The Mordani Empire collapsed so quickly that many of us are concerned about the implications. John leaned back in his chair. What implications? The aliens looked at each other before Counselor. Zethvar answered. Ambassador, before humans joined the war, military conflicts in our galaxy were limited affairs. Ships fought. Casualties were minimal. Wars lasted years and ended with negotiated settlements. That's why you were losing, Patricia said. Perhaps, but it was also predictable, controllable. Now we have seen what happens when human military doctrine is applied with galactic technology. Complete victory, John said. Complete destruction, Zethvar corrected. The Mordani Empire no longer exists. Not defeated, not reduced, not contained. Destroyed utterly. The room was quiet for a moment. Is that a problem? John asked. It demonstrates a level of military capability that makes many species uncomfortable, Admiral Vexhai said. Your people think about warfare in ways that we cannot predict or counter. John looked around the table. Every alien representative was watching him carefully, like they were afraid of what he might say next. Let me understand this correctly, John said. You asked for our help because you were losing a war. We helped you win that war completely. Now you're worried because we were too good at helping you? Ambassador, said a new voice. It belonged to Fleet Commander Veltar, who had fought alongside humans at Proxima Station. May I speak plainly? Please do. 2 years ago, we saw humans as primitive comedians. Amusing, but harmless. Today, every major military operation in the galaxy uses human strategic thinking. Human tactical doctrine has been adopted by every galactic fleet. Human officers command joint task forces that include our most advanced warships. Veltar paused and looked directly at John. We no longer see humans as primitive. We see humans as the most dangerous military force in galactic history. And that scares you, John said. Yes, Veltar admitted. It terrifies us. General Patricia Cole stood up slowly. Around the table, several aliens moved back in their chairs. Commander Veltar, she said, let me tell you something about human military thinking. We don't fight wars to fight wars. We fight wars to end wars. What does that mean? It means that when humans decide to fight, we fight to win permanently. We don't fight for territory or resources or pride. We fight to eliminate threats to our survival. The aliens were very quiet now. The Mordani Empire was a threat to galactic civilization, Patricia continued. So we eliminated it. Completely. That's how humans solve problems. But what happens, asked Counselor Zethvar, when humans decide that another species is a threat? Patricia looked around the table. That depends on whether they actually are a threat. The silence stretched for a long time. Finally, John Mitchell spoke. Counselors, I think there's been a misunderstanding. You seem to think that humanity wants to conquer the galaxy. Do you not? Asked Admiral Vexhai. No. We want to protect it, but we want equal representation in galactic government. We want recognition that humanity is not a primitive species to be patronized, and we want assurance that human interests will be respected. And if we refuse? Zethvar asked. John smiled. Why would you refuse? We're offering partnership, not domination. But you could dominate if you chose to. Yes, John said simply. We could. The negotiations continued for 3 days. In the end, the Galactic Accords gave humanity equal status with all other species, representation on the Galactic Council, and formal recognition as a major galactic power. But everyone in that room understood the real truth. Humanity was not just a major galactic power. Humanity was the galactic power. The other species had better technology, but humans had something more important. They understood war. 6 months later, Admiral Jake Morrison, the same captain who had been laughed at during first contact, stood on the bridge of the flagship. Determination. His crew included both humans and aliens working together under human command. "Admiral," said his communications officer, a crystalline alien named Kethvor, "we're receiving a distress signal from the Outer Rim. Pirates are attacking a trade convoy." "Set course to intercept," Jake ordered, "and send a message to the pirates." "What should I tell them, sir?" "Tell them that this convoy is under the protection of the Terran Defense Fleet. Tell them they have one chance to surrender. And if they refuse?" Jake looked out at the stars, remembering when aliens had laughed at human primitiveness. Now those same aliens served under human officers, using human tactics, following human orders. "If they refuse," Jake said, "remind them what happened to the Mordani Empire when they threatened galactic peace." The message was sent. Within minutes, the pirates had surrendered without firing a shot. Across the galaxy, the same scene played out daily. Human-led fleets kept the peace through a simple principle. Those who threatened galactic civilization would face the same fate as the Mordani. The aliens had been right about one thing. Humans were no longer the punchline of galactic civilization. They had become something far more powerful. They had become the final answer to every threat the galaxy might face.